It seems rather appropriate that the 13th episode turns out to be the Lokasenna, the flighting of Loki. It's a popular myth nowadays, and it's also the last attempt at peace before Ragnarok. This is the story where everything goes wrong, and it's impossible to back down after it. Too much has been said, the world is doomed. It's a rather complex story to tell, because it makes references to other myths, like the Lay of Harbach. So I'll go slowly and try to explain everything, which means I'll do it in two parts. Part 1, Loki starts it. Part 2, Thor ends it. Scholars seem to agree that this piece couldn't have been written with serious faith in the gods. Although it's well known now, at the time it must have been a one-off piece done for the fun of it, and was never intended to be serious. So the accusations Loki makes, although they're fun, aren't necessarily true or consistent with the rest of the mythology. It was probably written in Norway in the second part of the 10th century. You find it mostly in the Poetic Edda, although there is a brief mention of it in Snorri's Prose Edda, in the Skáldskaparmál. Snorri uses the Lokasenna to explain why gold is called the fire of Aegir. At Yule, Aegir invited the gods to his place, following the events in Hymir's cauldron, which I've already talked about. In the middle of his hall was Hymir's cauldron, great enough to brew beer for all the Aesir. Everyone came except for Thor. His excuse was that he was in Jotunheimr killing giants, and had better things to do than go and drink with one of his lifelong foes. In Aegir's hall, gold had been strewn across the floor, shining enough to light up the place, the glow of gold replacing fire, which is why gold is sometimes called the fire of Aegir. Also, the food served itself, which was good for Aegir's wife and spared her a lot of work. The gods sat while drink floated itself into their cups and food arranged itself nicely into their plates. There were a few gods present, and quite a lot of humans, because Ran, Aegir's wife, had a net with which she caught men who drowned at sea, and they all became her guests. So the drowned kept company to the Aesir. Ran also had 9 daughters, who were 9 waves, and they were faffing around too. The servants Fimafengr and Eldir were also present. Why Aegir even needed servants if the food served itself is a mystery, but there you are. If you read Snorri, he just says that Loki insulted the gods and killed Fimafengr, which to be fair is a good summary. Only Loki did it the other way round. He killed Fimafengr first, and then insulted the Aesir. He killed Fimafengr for no good reason. Maybe because he was bored, maybe because he was drunk, or maybe because Fimafengr annoyed him by being too perfect. Of course, killing people was considered bad manners. To add insult to injury, Aegir's hall was a sanctuary, a sacred place where killing was forbidden. So the Aesir kicked Loki out of the feast for being a party pooper. Loki sulked outside for about 5 minutes, then came back. At the door was Eldir. Loki asked him what the gods were talking about. Well, you know, the usual, said Eldir. How long and big their swords are, stuff like that. Nothing nice about you if that's what you're asking. Let's put some bitter in the gods' drinks, what do you think? Sneered Loki. It's your funeral, answered Eldir. You trying to be smart, kid? Trying to beat the sly god at cool banter? Okay, do it. Try me, see what happens. Eldir, who had good survival instincts, thought about what had happened to his colleague Fimafengr a few minutes ago and shut up. Loki strode into the hall, and hushed silence fell down immediately. The Aesir was shocked he'd dared come back. I mean, if you're ejected from the party, you get the message and you don't show your face again, right? Loki played it casual, and asked whether he could have a drink and a seat, ignoring the fact he'd just murdered someone. When the gods didn't answer, he turned to Odin and reminded him they were blood brothers, and Odin had promised he would never sit down and drink, were Loki not sitting next to him with a beer in his hand. Not for the first time, Odin wondered if he could get away without holding his promise, but Loki wasn't the usual kind of giant. He wouldn't be fooled. The ceremony of swearing foster brothership, and so becoming as close as blood brothers, is a documented historical fact. To become someone's blood brother, you stood with them under a piece of upraised turf and poured your blood on the same patch of earth as them. The idea was probably to symbolise sharing blood in the mother's womb, here the mother in question being Mother Earth. Odin turned to his son Vithar and asked him to get up and give his glass to Loki. Vithar did so, grumbling, "You never loved me anyway," under his breath. Why did Odin allow Loki to sit with the gods again? Historically, Vikings had a practice which consisted in doing a reassurance or reconciliation feast. When two families were in conflict, a feast was organised to try to solve the problem. Sometimes this went terribly wrong. A feast related in the Historia Britonum between the Saxon king Hengest and the Briton king Vortigern ends in a bloodbath. The Lokasenna could be Othin's attempt to reconcile the gods in the Jotun, personified by the Aesir on one side and Loki on the other, to prevent Ragnarök. Spoilers, it didn't work. Loki sat down. Conversations were about to resume when he said he wanted to make a toast. Everyone moaned and shook their heads, but it was too late. Already Loki was tapping his glass with a spoon and requesting silence. "Hail to the gods! Hail to the goddesses! Hail to all the guests!" said Loki. "Except for Bragi." "Okay," said Bragi. "It's okay, everyone. I got this." He sighed and turned to Loki. "Look, I'll give you a horse, a sword, and heck, what do I care? I'll also give you a ring, if you promise to stay quiet. What do you say?" "What do I care about your gold, Bragi? You're the biggest coward in this hall, the first to shy away when shields are raised." Bragi forgot his good resolution to stay calm. "You want to bring this outside, Loki? I can break your neck if you'd like." "Sticks and stones, baby," said Loki, or some Viking equivalent. He didn't believe the god of poetry would be much of a threat. To be fair, Bragi isn't exactly known for his deeds on the battlefield. Ithun, Bragi's wife, decided to intervene. "Honey, please calm down," she said. "Don't tease Loki, he's already in a tears." Before Bragi could complain that he wasn't the one who'd started this, Loki turned to Ithun. "Ah, Ithun, you're the worst. Tell me, don't you feel bad about sleeping with your brother's murderer?" Now, the details of this accusation are unclear. It must be referring to some myth we lack about Ithun's brother and Bragi killing him. But to be sure, we'd need to have the myth of Bragi seducing, or maybe kidnapping, who knows, Ithun. It's possible that an early version of Ithun's apples had her stolen away from her brother Fjotzi, and his killing by Bragi meant that he'd actually killed his wife's kinsman. It would explain why that detail is still in the text, when it doesn't make much sense for Bragi to kill Fjotzi otherwise. The next person to intervene was Gefjon. Again, it's unclear who she might be. According to the Poetic Edda, she's a virgin goddess who assembles in her hall the girls who die unmarried. This being said, in this myth she's wearing Brisingamen, which seems to indicate she should be Freya. But Freya speaks up afterwards, so there's some confusion as to who this woman actually is. She could still be Freya, introduced with a Haiti, which often happens in Norse myths. Or she could be someone else entirely. Anyway, the woman wearing Brisingamen, who wasn't Freya, got up and said, "Who cares about what Loki says? Haters gonna hate." The Dwarves didn't hate you though, did they? 4 guys for 1 necklace was a good deal on their side, don't you think? At this, Othin, who'd been nudged by Frigg to say something, got up wearily. He told Loki not to annoy Gefjon, as she was a great magician who could see the future as well as him and manipulate the threads of destiny for or against him. And if Loki went on as he was right now, the tag above his head would soon be saying no future. Loki, who'd been waiting for an excuse to insult Othin, interrupted before the king of the gods had a chance to finish his sentence. "You're the worst king we've ever had. You don't even give victory in battle to the best heroes, and more than once you've let cowards win." This is an accusation which is often made against Othin, and his excuse is that he needs the best warriors to fight at Ragnarök with him, so he sometimes lets them die in battle, even if they deserve their victory, so then he can have them in his army. Which is why, when you're fighting, you should never lift your eyes towards the sky. You might catch Othin's eye, and if he's interested in you, your chances of survival go down. From then on, the debate became rather more heated and less controlled. "You turned into a woman for 8 years and even had kids in that shape, you sissy," said Othin. "You turned into a woman and did girls' magic, you witch," said Loki. "You should both shut up," said Frigg, "and stop airing your dirty laundry in public." Maybe if Frigg hadn't interrupted them, we would have more details about Loki and Othin's lives as transvestites. As it is, we will never have the full myths referred to here, about when Loki was a milkmaid on Earth, or when Othin went to the Sam's Island to do witch magic. This being said, it seems coherent with other myths, as Loki is by essence a hermaphrodite character, and Othin is known for being the only man to practice Sera. Because this myth is long and rich, we'll follow Frigg's advice for now, and stop airing the gods' dirty laundry in public, although we'll start up again next fortnight. Thanks for watching this first half of the Lokasenna. If you like Loki's flighting, please leave a like or subscribe, that would be great. Next fortnight I'll finish this tale, and I'm also thinking of doing a myth-busting episode on God of War. I'm not sure when I'll get to do that, as I'm pretty busy right now, but I'll definitely try. See you then!